Yes, I'm on now.
Ms. Heredia? Okay, here we go.
Yes, I'm on. Thank
All
you
right,
so much.
so we are recording right now, so thank you. Please mute your devices at this point. As Ms. Heredia asked, I'm going to present some information to you. Not you, Mr. Jimenez. I'm going to need you to not mute because we're going to need you to translate for us. But I'm going to present the information as we currently know it concerning the reopening of our school in September, and give you all of the information that we know and try our very best to answer the questions that you may have. And hopefully by the end of this, you will have a better understanding and have a little bit more ease around where we're going and how we are going to support our students in the beginning of the year. For those of you who are just coming on, our superintendent has joined us today. Dr. Erica Tabaya is here, and I'm going to give her a moment just to say hello and any opening remarks that she'd like to give.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to be here, just here to support and clarify or answer any additional questions.
Thank you, Dr. Tabaya. So I'm going to pull up my screen here and we're going to get started. There's a lot of information, so please write down or jot down any questions that you may have in the chat. Like Ms. Heredia said, we're going to come back to them as we go through the presentation. So here we are. So it's a little small here today, but that's fine. I want to start by really just saying, and even before I share, that the number one concern for us at PS 138 this year, whether we are in remote learning or in the school building, is the safety and health of all of our children. That is our priority. And so that supersedes anything that we're going to do, because without that aspect in check, then we are never going to be able to get the academic portions down. So I want you to understand that we are planning academically. We're very robust curriculum. We really want to engage with our children academically, but we understand that they have been through a lot in these last couple of months, and so have you. And so our interest right now and in the very beginning is to ensure that they are safe, that they feel safe, that they feel emotionally supported, that we are there for them, that we're building those relationships, and that their health and well-being is at the top of our minds. And so for those of us who have opted for full remote, there's a different situation there because your children are not coming out. And even so, we're going to talk a lot about how we will be supporting our children who are in remote, because just because they're not in a school doesn't mean that we don't want to support them in their social and emotional growth. They have also been through a lot, and we do understand that those children also need to be able to have that support from us. So we are looking to do a comprehensive, all across the board support of all of our children, whether they are in school or in remote, because that is our number one priority in able to get them ready to learn. Ms. Jimenez, please translate for me. Ms. Jimenez?
El principal quiere que sepan que si ustedes tomaron la opción de hacer sus lecciones de su niño remoto, queremos que sepan que, Michelle, stop laughing, que la escuela va a hacer todo posible para que todos los niños, aunque estén en el edificio o aunque estén en programa remoto, que todos reciban la misma calidad de educación que ofrecemos.
Perfect. So in that vein, I want to start with just that. How are we going to be supporting, and what directives have we been given in terms of how to support children who are going to be coming into our school in the beginning of the year, in September at some point? We have a tentative start date. Dr. Tabaya can help me with that. I believe that there's a tentative start date, but we are still awaiting the final word, or is that finalized? Can I share that?
Everything is as of the moment, but yes, it's September 10th as of the moment.
As of the moment.
Yeah.
Para que sepan, la superintendente del distrito, la señora Tobaya, nos han dicho que septiembre 10 es el primer día de instrucción.
Now, the one thing I want to say before I get into any models that we've thought about implementing this school year, or any health protocols, is that, you know, everything as we have known it in the past, we have to kind of switch our thinking around that and understand that nothing is like it was before. Nothing is like it was before. So when you think about your traditional beginning of the year where you're going uniform shopping and the kids are coming and they're congregating and they're hugging their friends and they're meeting their teachers, none of that will look the same this year because we're operating in a system where there's a pandemic and we have to maintain the CDC guidelines for social distancing and all of the other protocols that are in place.
El principal quiere que sepan que nada va a ser igual como fue anteriormente. Hay muchos cambios que tenemos que tomar para la seguridad y salud de los niños, los padres y los maestros. Nada va a ser igual. Hay muchos cambios y ella le va a dejar saber cuáles son esos cambios y cómo ustedes pueden apoyar a esos cambios.
So having thought about that, one of the things we needed to think about as we're thinking about reopening was how many children are going to be coming into the building and how many parents have decided to opt their children into complete remote learning this year. And so we received those numbers earlier this week. And based on that information and also the number of teachers who have sought accommodations and may not be coming into the building this year, we decided on a model for our school that is based on our numbers. So I'm going to bring that up for you right now and show that to you so that you're able to see the model, and I'll explain a little bit about what that is. So here we are. So if you can see that, we have decided to adopt Model 2.
You're not sharing
Ms.
yet.
Evans,
Oh.
we can't see nothing.
Apologies. Thank you. Thank you for keeping me honest. Thank you, folk. All right. So I'm sharing now, I hope.
No, not yet.
No, it's
It's
still not
coming.
coming up. There it is.
There it is. All right. So let's put that back up. Thank you, everyone. All right. So if you see here, we're looking at a 3-cohort model. What that means is that for the children who are not, who will be back in school. So we took the number of children who opted to full remote, subtracted them from the equation, and then the remainder of the children who will be coming into the building, they have to be split into a 3-cohort model to, and this is to ensure that we have the proper social distancing for the number of children who are going to be, let me try to make that a little bit bigger. Here we go. Is that better? Okay.
Yes.
So there's a group D that will be completely remote. Those are the children who are not coming into the school at all, no days. Then the remainder of the children will be split into a 3-cohort model. What that means is, as you can see from the chart, there'll be a group A, a group B, and a group C that are coming in on the days presented here. So if you look at the model, in week 1, group A will come in on Monday and Wednesday. And before I even go there, I want you to look at Wednesday. That is group A's day every single week. Group B, every single Thursday they are here. And group C, every single Friday they are here. The thing that changes is on Mondays and Tuesdays when those rotations change. So you have a singular day when it's every single Wednesday it's A, every single Thursday B, every single Friday C. On Monday and Tuesdays when we have a mixture of the groups. So AB comes in week 1 on Monday and Tuesday, BC comes in on week 2 on Monday and Tuesday, and then C and A again in week 3. So in the 3-week cycle, your children will be in the building a total of 5 days. So I understand that. I spoke to some parents, and some people were under the misconception that children were going to be in the building every day. That is not the case. And the reason that is because we have to follow the social distancing guidelines. And when we went to do a walkthrough in our school and looked in the classrooms, every child has to have 65 feet around them to be properly socially distanced, so that they are not, touching anybody and playing with anyone in that way, so that there are no passing through of any virus or any, sneezing, coughing, touching, as kids are apt to do. So having done that, the classes will fit perhaps 9 to 10 students at max with a teacher in the room. So that's the reason why there has to be a rotation for the model. Ms. Jimenez, sorry, I just left you back there.
Yeah. El principal quiere que todos los niños van a ser comportados en grupo A, B o C. Si ustedes miran a este calendario que ella puso, si su niño está en grupo A, esos son los días que ellos van a venir a la escuela. Queremos que sepan que los niños no van a venir a la escuela todos los días de la semana. Ellos tienen que venir al día que está designado para el grupo suyo, A, B o C. Si miran el calendario, en las primeras 3 semanas, los niños participarán en la escuela en instrucción 5 días en las 3 semanas. Cada color son 5. Para que los niños, es necesario porque el Departamento de Salud nos ha dicho que tenemos que mantener distancia entre los niños. No es posible tener 30 muchachos en la clase como antes. What's the ratio in the classroom? 9 to 10 children?
9 to 10 children, yes.
Sí, solamente van a poder participar o las maestras van a tener los niños solamente 9 o 10 en su clase cada día que la escuela está abierta para niños. No se pueden tener más de eso. Ese es el modelo que el Departamento de Salud nos ha dado. Y es necesario para que los niños puedan mantener distancia.
Thank you. So I've noticed that there are a few questions already. And while I have Dr. Tabaya, I want to be able to utilize her expertise. So Ms. Heredia, if you could just look to see what we have so far. I'm not married to the PowerPoint. Whatever the questions are that the parents need answers is what I want to provide.
All right. So our first question comes from the Leon family.
Yes.
It says her daughter is attending 1st grade virtually. So she would like to know by when would she know who the new teacher is?
Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the teachers. Dr. Tabaya, do you have anything to add about teachers before I talk about teachers?
No, I just wanted to, kind of frame it a little bit for the parents. So if school starts on September 10th, that's a Thursday. So if your children are in group B, that would be the first day of school physically for them. Everybody's starting on September 10th. Everyone else would start remotely. But the only students coming on the first day of school, September 10th, would be Group B. On September 11th, it would be only Group C. So the reason this is so important is that the groups are going to help us to keep the children safe and the community safe and really focus on cohorts and keeping students in cohorts. So it's really important that once you get your schedule, that you understand that your child only comes on these special days, and that it is based on the day of the week, and you will get it. Once the whole school calendar is out, you'll be able to get all the dates for that, but it's important to think about that.
La señora Tobaya quiere empezar que ustedes solamente pueden traer sus niños en los días que están designados para ellos. Esto de gran importancia para mantener las distancias y poder manejar la situación en la escuela. Todos los niños van a participar desde el primer día que viene siendo septiembre 10, si es en el edificio o remoto. Todos los niños van a recibir instrucción todos los días, si no es en la escuela, por remoto.
So I want to also add just something quickly to that in terms of just adding on a little bit to what Dr. Tabaya said. So everybody will get a schedule for their child. We're working on that now. Again, we are getting numbers in for children who are going full remote. So we are going to give you a little information about when you will get your child's schedule. And we're also going to be color coding the schedule so that you understand which day your child comes in. So for example, if your child belongs in group A, or if we place that child in group A, they'll be the green group, and then group B will be the orange group, and group C will be the blue group. So if a child comes in on Thursday, we know that we should be looking for an orange program. If the child has a different color, then that child that's not their day. So then we will be calling to ask you to come get the child. So I'm going to get into the scheduling. We are working on that currently because as you may know, some of you do know, we spoke that these numbers are changing on the daily. We're also thinking about families who may have multiple children in our schools. So we also designed a survey for you to tell us how you'd prefer to have your children scheduled. So we're working through all of that as we're trying to get these schedules done. And our aim is to get them to you by the 26th of August so that you have them in full time for school. So everyone will get a schedule for their child by the 26th of August, and we're working on that to get that to you now. But the cohort situation is very important. And the reason is, if we have a bunch, let's say group A, for example, and they come to school together, in the event that there's any potential positive or someone feels like there's something that's going on, we'll be able to trace all of the children in group A. That's why it's important for them to stay together. So we don't want to mix the cohorts once we put them together, because we want to ensure the safety of all of the staff and students in that group, so that we know that if there's anything that goes awry, we know exactly where to look rather than having to look all over the place. So the cohorts kind of help us to keep the health and safety protocols that we're going to put in place.
Es de gran importancia que ustedes sepan que es de gran importancia que los niños en el grupo verde, el grupo de naranja y el grupo azul siempre estén juntos en la escuela, para poder que si alguien se enferma, Dios libre, podemos mirar con quién esos muchachos están en contacto, para poder manejar la situación si llega. Es de gran importancia de traer sus niños solamente en el día que ellos están designados. Ya para el agosto 26, la señora Evans va a tener un calendario para decirle a ustedes en cuál grupo está su niño, en cuáles días ellos vienen, y es de gran importancia que tomen ese calendario y no traigan a los niños en los días que no le pertenecen. Si su niño viene a la escuela un día que no le pertenece, dependiente de este calendario, él no se va a permitir ir al salón. Sin embargo, le van a llamar a ustedes para que lo vengan a recoger. Por favor, no manden a sus niños a la escuela si no es el día de él. Y el principal también quiere que sepan que si tienen más de un niño en la escuela, ella va a hacer todo posible para que sus niños siempre vengan juntos, el mismo día, en el mismo color, en el mismo grupo, para que los niños de la misma familia siempre estén juntos en el edificio. Ms. Evans?
So I want to just really drive home, because I'm not sure that was conveyed. I didn't hear it. The parents need to understand that on the 10th of September, only Group B will show up to school, and they will have that way ahead of the start of school, so they will know based on the color and the group that's on their program. I just want to make that very clear, that only children in Group B would be in the building on the 10th. Everybody else would be in remote. Friday would be only Group C, and then we would go back to the start. So I just want to be clear on that.
Jueves, el día 10 de septiembre, es el primer día de clase y solamente Grupo B se va a poder entrar a la escuela. Los demás estarán en instrucción remoto. De nuevo, septiembre 10, que cae jueves, solamente Grupo B puede venir a la escuela ese día.
So the scheduling has also changed for students. So now, based on this schedule, it will be a 5.5 hour day, and it used to be 6:20, I believe, 6:20, 6:50, 6:20. And so now it's going to be 5 hours and 30 minutes. So I want to make that clear to parents as well, and I'll tell them about the start time in just a second. I just want you to, Ms. Jimenez, know that 5 hours, 30 minutes school days.
También queremos que sepan que el día académico va a ser más corto, 5 horas y 30 minutos. 5 horas y 30 minutos va a ser el día académico de cada niño que viene a la escuela.
The start of day will be 8:45.
Se empieza,
And
I'm
end of day 2:15.
el día académico empiece a las 8:15, 8:15, correct?
8:45.
A las 8:45, perdonen, a las 8:45 es que empieza el día académico y termina at
2:15.
a las 2:15 termina el día académico. A las 8:45 a las 2:15.
Also, the children will have grab and go breakfasts and lunch. So there will no longer be a time period for them to come in for breakfast. Children cannot come into the building before 8:45, and it's a grab and go breakfast, which they will eat in the classroom. So I know in the past we have had the breakfast period where children were able to come in early and sit in the cafeteria and have their breakfast and go. That's no longer the case. Children will come at 8:45. They will grab their breakfast at the entrance. They will go to their classrooms and they will have their breakfast there.
Los niños no se van a permitir entrar temprano para comer desayuno. Los niños tienen que entrar a las 8:45 y cada niño, si quiere desayuno, se le va a dar una fundita con su desayuno que ellos van a comer en sus salones. Los niños no se van a poder sentarse en la cafetería como antes para comer su desayuno. Entran a las 8:45, le dan una funda con desayuno y ese desayuno se come en el salón.
Are there any questions, Ms. Heredia, that are in the chat? Let's get a few of those, and then we'll continue with this. Heredia?
Hello?
Question.
Okay, so my chat just disappeared. Someone took me out of the meeting. I had to jump back on. They kicked me out.
Okay.
So I just jumped back on. So I don't have the chat anymore on my stream.
All right, so let's
The second question.
Ms. King, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Well, the second question is from Ms. Sanchez, and they were asking, in comparison to the school's population, how many students have applied for full remote learning?
More than a third.
More than a third. Okay. And the next question, Shapiro, what about their lunches and recess? I guess you addressed that with the lunches and recess.
Lunch will be in the classroom. All eating will be in the classroom, and they'll have some opportunities for some activities in the classroom setting.
Okay.
I have a question.
Let me answer that in Spanish. También queremos que sepan que el almuerzo también va a ser en una funda en su salón. Y actividades durante la hora de almuerzo se van a tomar en cabo en el salón.
Okay, Ms. King?
Yeah, then another part of that question about the lunch and recess, a parent is asking, can I opt to have my child held over?
What does that mean?
I'm not sure if they're talking about in repeating.
Is that separate from lunch and recess? I'm not sure. What does that mean?
It was a part of the same, it was the same person.
Yeah, I think, something.
Go ahead, Dr.
So I think, probably many parents have the concern that their children may have not learned everything last year with so much that was going on the way we left, and remote learning like we were all doing. So the part of what we're going to be doing in the beginning of the year is addressing unfinished learning from last year, because all students are going to be experiencing that. So I think, you can certainly reach out to your child's teacher, but I think, all children are going to need some refresher and have unfinished learning addressed. And I know the school is taking that into consideration, and the beginning of the school year is going to address that. So there's going to be some time where we're going to look at what we consider unfinished learning from last year, and then we'll get into the new curriculum for this year. But it's very important for all students to have that transitional time.
La señora Tobaya quiere que sepan que hay muchos padres que tienen el concierto que los niños no aprendieron todo lo que tenían que saber el año pasado. La señora Tobaya quiere que sepan que al principio del año académico, este septiembre, vamos a mirar a los niños y las académicas que quizás ellos no captaron durante el año pasado. Todos los niños van a recibir la oportunidad de recibir remediación escolar académico para estar seguro que los niños están captando el trabajo de su grado.
And Ms. Evans' parents want to know when they'll find out. You know, the siblings, will the siblings be together? There's some parents who are talking about students in other schools.
Yep.
When they'll find out what group they're in, those types of things.
So again, for those asking, thank you, Dr. Tabaya. We crafted a survey because we wanted specifically to ask parents. So I think initially our thoughts were that most parents would probably want all of the siblings together. So that was how we were planning. And then we thought about there may be families who have multiple children who may not want that all together. We don't know. So we created a survey that we are sharing with you right after this meeting. And it has 3 questions on it just to ask you to tell us how you prefer to have your children, if you have multiple children in the school, how you prefer to have them scheduled so that we can accommodate that as best we can, especially if you know what that looks like for maybe older children that you may have, and that we can accommodate that. We're going to work with you to do that. So the survey is complete. As soon as this is over, we'll have Ms. Jimenez send that out to you. If we do not have your email, please reach out to Ms. Jimenez and make sure she has that, because we want to ensure that if you have multiple children, that you get that survey. For those of you with 1 child, or if you're remote, then that may not impact you at all. But for the people who have multiple children, the remote will come out to the survey comes out today, so we can use that and take that into consideration while we plan. And again, by the 26th of this month, we will have your programs to you so that you'll know what cohort your child belongs to.
La escuela va a mandar un formulario en cual le vamos a hacer unas cuantas preguntas por si acaso ustedes tienen más de un niño en la escuela y queremos saber sus preferencias en cómo los niños van a tomar su educación en la escuela. Por favor, yo no tengo todas las direcciones electrónicas de todos los padres. Por favor, mándame una electrónica al mjimenez@schools.nyc.gov. Lo voy a poner aquí en la página para que lo tengan. Por favor, mándame una respuesta para el formulario para que ustedes lo puedan firmar y mandárselo para atrás a la señora Evans. Lo voy a poner aquí, por favor. Yo no tengo todas sus direcciones, por favor, de mandarme sus direcciones electrónicas.
Okay. Ms. King?
Yes, most of the questions have been addressed, and is based on like the school hours. So the ones that are there that we haven't spoke on is based on going from remote to hybrid. We have one parent who said that, as previously discussed, I opt for full-time remote learning, but as an essential worker, I am considering the hybrid learning. Can I add my child to the in-school learning?
So again, I addressed that earlier, and I'll address it again. When we spoke with parents initially, the directives we were given was that if the parents want to opt into full remote learning, that they could. If they chose to start, so for example, if my child starts in full remote and wants to come back to the school, they have time periods within which that they are accepting those changes, because we have to be able to plan for that. So depending on the number of teachers who are coming to the building and the number of students and the number of children in the cohort, we have to then make separate plans for that. It's easier for a child to start in school and then go full remote because there's no planning that's needed for that. A parent would just need to fill the form out to say now they're taking taking their child out and putting them into full remote. So that's an easier transition. Going from remote into the school, according to the chancellor, they are having time periods, I think it's quarterly, where you have a date within which you can re-opt your child into the in-school learning. But as of right now, I don't know that there's a different explanation. Dr. Tabai, if you have any information on that that's different than what I just said, and you'd like to add, I would appreciate that. But as far as I know, if you're full remote at this time, there's a window within which, and I'll get that information to the parents that are full remote, they can opt back in. There are 3 windows throughout the year, but it's not something that can just be done, just to do it. It's, as far as I know, that's based on the city guidelines.
Yep, that is accurate.
Okay. Ms. King? Oh, Ms.
Okay.
Jimenez.
Yeah, I was waiting for Ms. Jimenez.
La señora pregunta, un padre preguntó que ella optó para recibir servicios académicos remotos y ahora ella ha pensado que quiere cambiar y en vez poner los niños en el salón en uno de los 3 grupos. Ella nos ha dicho que al momento no sabemos si ustedes pueden cambiar esa opción si ya lo tomaron, pero el Departamento de Educación les van a dar la oportunidad que si no quieren continuar con servicios remotos, pueden cambiar su opción a tal en el edificio.
Okay. So the next question, as I said, some of these you've talked about you gave them their answers. One parent asks, how would I know which group my daughter is in? And she's going to 4th grade. I guess the grade doesn't matter. It depends on what group they're in. Then you went to what will be the school hours, what time kids will be allowed to go in. Said that. How would we know what group? You said that. The next question, I have 2 girls, one going to middle school and one going to 4th grade in PS 138. As of right now, her middle school is doing the same model as the PS 138. If they get put on different groups, can I ask for her group to be changed? As I am an essential worker who has worked through the whole pandemic, and it will be easier for me to have them picked up on the same days.
So like I said earlier, I think I just said that too, that yes, if you have children who are in different schools and you know what days they are going to be on and you can let us know that, I'm happy to accommodate that, because I do understand that that could be a stressor. We don't want any additional stress. We want to try to accommodate whatever we can. So absolutely, if you know when your other children or your other child will be, what day they're going to be on or their cycle, and you let us know, we're happy to accommodate that for sure.
Un padre preguntó que porque los niños de ellas van a diferentes escuelas, da la suerte que los niños tienen el mismo calendario en 1:38 y en la otra escuela superior. La madre quiere saber si los niños pueden estar juntos los mismos días para tener sus académicas igual. La señora Evans acaba de decir que vamos a hacer todo lo posible para que todos los niños en la misma familia estén siempre con el mismo grupo, el mismo formulario del plan A, B o C, pero en cada momento vamos a tener en conciencia la dificultad de tener niños en 2 diferentes escuelas y vamos a trabajar con ustedes para hacer que todos los niños, que usted tenga todos los niños en sus escuelas como usted lo quiere.
Okay. Next question. If my child coughs or sneezes, are you going to assume he has COVID?
I'm making no assumptions. I'm not a medical professional, but we will have a nurse on staff, and we have specific things that we look for. Do they have a temperature? Are they saying that they're losing their sense of taste or smell? So it's the nurse will do that evaluation of a child. If they show COVID-related symptoms. So it's not for everything. I'm going to sneeze. Children are going to sneeze. That's not, I don't think that those are the guidelines. We are working with the CDC guidelines for what the symptoms are for COVID. And if they demonstrate those symptoms, then the medical professional will make an evaluation of the child. So that's how that would work. So the answer to that is no. If your child coughs or sneezes, I'm going to assume absolutely nothing because I'm not a medical person. But if they demonstrate any of the symptoms that they have told us to look for, then our nurse will do an evaluation to see if there's anything happening.
Una madre quiere saber si su niño tose o deternuda durante el día, si la van a llamar a venir a buscar el niño. La señora Evans dice que ella no es un profesional médico, pero que la enfermera en la escuela va a ver el niño y determinar si tiene síntomas del COVID. Bajo ninguna circunstancia se va a hacer nada si el niño no ve la enfermera que va a determinar si hay necesidad para llamar a los padres.
Okay, next question. I have 2 children which will be doing 100% remote and a child starting pre-K, which I also want him to do 100% remote. What is the plan for him?
The plan for him is
for pre-K.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The plan is, so yesterday we had a pre-K meeting and kind of laid out the plan for our pre-K students, and it's not going to be any different than it is for children who are coming into the building. So I want to just really emphasize that, because I think sometimes the impression is that because children are in remote, they're not going to get the same quality of instruction. And we have been very, very intentional about sitting with our teachers. Even just last week, we sat together and planned to ensure that the standards that children are expected to learn in every grade are going to be addressed, and to Dr. Tobias' point, and that any unfinished learning that children present when we assess them, that we're going to be able to address those and continue to move them along the standards that they're expected to be taught. So they're going to have their teachers. They're not going to be given lessons that they are going to have to go sit and watch a screen and then do something, though that will be a part of it. But in our remote platform in the past 3 months, March through June, all of our teachers were on the platform every single day live with their students. There was not a day that we took off. So what you can expect is for every teacher to be on the platform. The FaceTime and screen time for children at that age is significantly less than it is for the older children per guidelines, but you can be assured that we are going to have teachers who are going to be prepared to teach lessons to your children and to interact with them socially, emotionally. Every day they will see faces, because that is our plan at the school to address their learning. We are committed to making sure that every child is learning, and so every child who's in the building is going to get the same level of instruction as the children who are doing remote learning.
La señora Evans quiere que sepan, en particular con los niños más chicos, preca, treca, que si están remotos van a recibir la misma cualidad de excelencia en educación que las maestras ofrecen en el 138. Todos los niños van a recibir sus académicas y sus oportunidades para emocionalmente asociarse con los otros niños, aunque estén en remoto. Las maestras han trabajado duro durante el mes de marzo hasta junio para asegurar que ningún niño no reciba todo lo que el currículo dice que tienen que recibir. Las maestras están trabajando duro para estar al frente de la computadora viva en vez de muchos videos, para asegurar que todos los niños están recibiendo una gran calidad de educación.
Okay. Next question. Will the grading system remain the same or return to the normal numerical grading?
So Dr. Tobias can help me with this one as well, but I do believe that there's keeping the grading system that we started with in remote. Am I correct with that?
I don't think that's determined yet.
Okay, so we're still getting directives on that.
Okay.
As soon as we know, we'll let you know. There's a lot of unknowns, and I understand, and so as a staff, that a lot of that unknown is, it's hard to work in that environment, so we can only imagine what that's like for you as parents. So we do totally understand that, for some of the questions that you have, we don't yet know the answers, but I promise you that as soon as we are made aware, I will let you know that. So as of right now, we're still awaiting directives on that.
Okay.
Un padre preguntó sobre los grados que se le van a dar a los niños, porque todo, en la manera con cual se le dieron los grados el último año escolar fue diferente del resto del año. Todavía no se ha determinado, dice la señora Tobaya, a cómo vamos a tomar esta decisión a darle sus grados a sus niños. Las maestras van a tener sus récords, van a mantener la cualidad de saber cuál grado el niño ha alcanzado en sus clases. Al momento no sabemos cómo vamos a darle grados a los niños, pero cuando se determine, ustedes van a ser los primeros que lo sepan.
Okay. So you have another few questions that's on, I guess you can reiterate with the class scheduling. The parents just want to confirm the start time on the days, and if the day is going to be cut, one of the parents asked how would they do the lunch and the breakfast hours.
Right. So the breakfast is grab and go when they come in the morning. So they'll pick up the breakfast at the door, they'll go to their classrooms, and they'll have time to eat in the classroom. The teachers still get their lunch period, so the children will have their lunch at that time, where they'll have an adult with them where they can eat their lunches and talk to their peers at that time, and possibly engage in activities that we will have. It's just not going to be contact activities. It's going to be very, nobody will be touching anybody. And so in that sense, it's not ideal, but again, in the interest of safety and health, they will have stuff to do in the classroom. They can do art, they can do different things. They can do an activity on the screen. I know we put those on and the children do physical activities and so forth, but they will have their time in classroom for that. In terms of the academic portion, so let me just be clear on that. We are, the directives and guidelines we were given concern, and that is we are prioritizing the priority standards this year, and it's looking at what do kids need to know at every grade level in order for them to meet grade level standards. So really going deeper rather than going wider with a lot of other things. We're really focused in on what are the big important learning that children need to have in order for them to successfully complete the grade, and planning into that opportunities for them to incorporate that unfinished learning that they need to have. So it's really looking at where are kids now, where do they need to be by the end of whatever grade they are in now, and how do we bridge that gap for them? And so a lot of the work will be done around that. So they will have opportunities to engage deeply. We sat, for example, last week and looked at the priority standards, just as an example, and really looked at some of the standards that can be combined, and how do we put those together and really pull them apart, so that a unit that may take, let's say, 6 weeks, now we're looking at it saying, yes, but if we have to teach less of those because they're ones we can marry together, then we can really go deeper to really gauge understanding rather than just teaching them to have them to teach. So I think that the academic portion will be robust for kids, and that is a priority for us, and that is important for us. Your children are not going to be shortchanged because the time is shorter. What that means is that we're going to have to really focus in on the things that are of the most importance, so that we're making sure that all children get what they need to be successful at their grade level. So we're not shortchanging them. As a matter of fact, I think we're going deeper and making sure that every child gets what they need, and really digging down and saying, let's drill down and make sure that if the child shows this, then this is what we're going to do. And that's the type of planning that we've been doing to re-engage your children when they come back to school.
El principal quiere que sepa, un padre preguntó sobre el almuerzo. Queremos decir de nuevo que el desayuno y el almuerzo se van a tomar en el salón. Los niños van a tener la oportunidad durante el periodo que la maestra esté de almuerzo, estar con otro adulto que los va a ayudar a participar en actividades en el salón, fuera de académicas, para que puedan jugar y hablar, pero siempre mantener su distancia. Sobre el currículo, que porque el día es más corto no quiere decir que van a recibir menos instrucción. Lo que vamos a hacer es asegurar que los niños estén donde están supuestos estar. Vamos a hacer accesos para ver dónde están, dónde tienen que estar, dónde deben estar y cómo cerrar el espacio entre medio de los dos. Y el tiempo que académica cada día va a tomar mucha atención a los que los niños tienen que alcanzar para tener éxito para su grado. Ms. Evans?
Okay.
The next question is like a combination question. Both of them are on masks, and one parent wants to know, will the masks be given out to them, or do they have to come with their own? And what happens if a child has asthma and wearing a mask all day in the building?
So the guidance we've been given so the DOE will be providing masks for all staff members and students within the school. So there will be masks at the school for children. So you don't have to provide one. If you have one and you prefer for them to wear it, then that's totally fine. If you don't, we will provide that for them. In terms of children with asthma, if children have special circumstances and they're unable to, Dr. Tabay, you can help me with this. I believe that could be an exception for that child. I think that's the guidance that we were given on that.
Yes. So if a child can't wear a mask, there should be a doctor's note, but also remember that the children are going to be eating breakfast and lunch in the classroom. So when they're eating breakfast and lunch, they are going to take their mask off. And they are going to be socially distanced in the classroom. So that is part of helping to keep them safe. So even though they're going to take their mask off to eat, they're going to be spread out. And that's a big part of what we're going to be teaching them. So while they have their masks off, they're going to eat, they'll put their mask back on. So that's, they're not going to have them on for the 5.5 hours. But I also want parents to think about this. So you're doing model 2. So most of your children are going to be going, everyone's going to definitely be going once a week. So your child will have their mask on definitely for 5.5 hours. The school day is shorter, right? So if you're thinking in some weeks they'll be in for 2 days, so that's 11 hours a week. So it's the time that they're going to be wearing their mask isn't, as much as you think it is, because it's not every day, and it's not, it's the school day is shorter. It's going to be maybe 2 days, some weeks, 1 day, other weeks. And they will have an opportunity. All students are going to take off their masks in the classroom because they have to when they're eating. And if they want to, if they bring water bottle and they take a sip of water, they may take their mask off. But that is also why the social distancing is so important. So, but there are, in addition to that, for all children, there are exceptions if a children has a condition, and they can bring in a doctor's note for that.
Una madre preguntó sobre las máscaras. Si los padres tienen una máscara que los niños pueden utilizar, por favor de mandarlo con su máscara. Si el niño llega a la escuela y no tiene una, la escuela le va a dar una máscara para ponérsela durante el día. También queremos que se recuerden que los niños no van a tener sus máscaras cuando tomen su almuerzo y desayuno. Los niños cuando coman van a estar de gran distancia. So, si se quitan sus máscaras van a estar en gran distancia a los otros niños. Si su niño tiene asma, por ejemplo, es preferible que mande al niño a la escuela con su máscara y con una nota del doctor. Es importante que tenga una nota que nos diga que el niño no puede. La señora Tobaya también quiere que sepan que aunque el día es 5 horas y 30 minutos, los niños no van a utilizar la máscara todo ese tiempo durante el día, las 5.30 horas. Se la van a quitar cuando coman y para otras situaciones. Pero, por favor, una carta de su médico si su niño no puede poner su máscara. Y eso es todo. Por favor, estén pendientes que se la pongan, pero que si no pueden, la escuela le va a dar uno. Ms. Evans?
So I wanted to address something I see about face shields in the chat and something about after school. So face shields are not required by the DOE, but some parents want to send their children in. Some teachers might want to wear face masks too, a face shield, because that's another layer of protection. So if you want to send your child in with a face shield, that's fine, but it isn't required. It's not a bad idea if you want to do that. Now, there is no official word from the Department of Ed about after school in any school. So I have been on many of these town halls, and in some of the town halls, the CBO director is on, and they have they're talking about it, but there is nothing official in any school. Okay, so if you've been on maybe another child, you have another child and you've seen the CBO director talking about after school, they are talking about what possibly could happen, but there is nothing set yet. So if it does happen, what it would be is that the students who come in that day, the cohort A, could have after school, but no cohort B students could come when cohort A is there, et cetera. So the after school will lead into the cohorts. Again, the most important thing with the cohorts is to contain the students in their pods together. So as soon as we're really going to need your help, parents, to, really adhere to the time frames of school. A lot of us are still struggling with, thinking about how is this going to look, right? And it's not going to look the same as it did. We can't have students waiting outside school early. We're going to have to work together to really understand the schedule, because students cannot come into the building early. They can't. And the reason it's not because people don't want them to, but it's because we're trying to keep everyone safe. If we start mixing up groups of kids and somebody were to get sick or were to get COVID, then the school is more likely to close. So if we keep the pods and we keep students together, and if there is a case where one student gets it and we trace that and it's only one group, then we don't have to close the school. It would only be that one class that would be affected. But if students are mixing with other groups then the school would have to close if there's 2 cases or more. So we really need, in order for us to keep the school open, we have to work together as a community. We have to keep the kids in their cohorts, and we have to keep them away from each other unless they're in that class together. That's going to help keep the staff safe, the students safe, and the community safe, and the school open. So we really have to, it's very difficult. And I see the chat, I see a lot of concerns. We have working parents. This is not going to be easy. And that's why we want you to know now, so you can start thinking about how are you going to do this? How can you work this out? Because it isn't going to be easy. There is no, the mayor has talked about daycare for essential workers, and he did say that there's going to be 100,000 spots throughout the city, but there is no details about that right now, because I know there's some essential workers who are in the chat and talking about, like, they may have had their children going to the rec centers, which are going to close when school opens. So, these are kinds of things that you have to think about. Right now, there are no details, and there is nothing specific about essential workers right now.
Un padre preguntó que si que se puede permitir que los niños vengan a la escuela con las máscaras que tiene el plástico al frente de la cara. La señora Tobaya y la señora Evans, no hay problema. Si el niño prefiere ponerse, o si usted prefiere que se lo ponga, no hay problema. La segunda pregunta viene siendo actividades extracurriculares. En la escuela típicamente hemos tenido Kids Bay y Aspira. A esta fecha no tenemos información si esos grupos van a tener programas extracurricular después que los niños salgan a las 2:15.
So go ahead, Ms. Jimenez, you finished?
Sí, es de gran importancia que sepan que aunque los programas abren, tenemos que mantener el protocolo de los niños en el grupo A, B y C. Un niño en grupo B no puede venir el lunes con el grupo A para participar en el programa extracurricular. Los niños en el grupo A siempre que tienen que estar juntos, B también y C. No podemos mezclar los niños porque entonces se nos hace difícil que si alguien se enferme, averiguar, investigar quiénes también pueden estar enfermos. No se pueden mezclar los grupos. Si es grupo A los lunes, solamente esos niños pueden estar juntos para no mezclar los niños. Y así, si algo pasa, que un niño sale enfermo con el virus, solamente la clase en cual el niño está es la clase que vamos a investigar para cerrar, no la escuela en total. Es importante que ustedes nos ayuden a mantenerse los niños en sus grupos apropiados para evitar que muchos más niños se enfermen. Necesitamos su ayuda para hacer eso. Ms. Evans?
There is a very concerning question in the
I
chat
saw
that I
that
want to
one.
address.
I saw
Yeah,
that
right
one as
away.
well. Yes.
Yeah, so that is,
Not true.
that there's if a child has COVID, they're taken to a medical treatment center. That is not correct at all. That is not what happens at all.
Absolutely
So, Principal Evans, you can talk about that procedure, but that is absolutely not true. So I'm glad someone put that in there because I'm sure there's a lot of misinformation, and that's the reason we're having this meeting. So that's good that came up. So you want to address what exactly is going to happen if if we think that a child has COVID.
So if a child presents with symptoms that are aligned with the CDC guidelines for what that looks like, and our medical professional, our nurse, assesses the child and thinks that there's something going on there, the child is then put in a room with an adult there with them, and the parent is contacted to pick the child up and then asked to take them maybe to see their doctor to get a test to verify that that's what's going on. Your child is not left taken from the building by anyone except you or a guardian who was responsible on the blue card to pick that child up. So there's nobody sending your child anywhere. A child presents with symptoms. The nurse does an assessment. The child goes to the isolation room with an adult watching over them. We contact you, the parents, and anybody that you've authorized to pick the child up, and your child is released to you. You would then take them to get a test to make sure that you know what's going on, and that's the procedure. There is nobody else who's picking up your child besides you or a guardian or someone that you have given permission to pick your child up.
Un padre preguntó, en el caso que un niño se sospecha que tiene el virus, bajo ninguna circunstancia el niño se va a poner en una ambulancia o alguien lo va a llevar a otro lugar fuera de la escuela. Si hay sospecha que un niño tiene el virus, inmediatamente ese niño estará con un adulto en la escuela hasta el tiempo que un adulto parental venga a buscar al niño. Bajo ninguna circunstancia los vamos a sacar del edificio. Solamente un padre autorizado por usted puede venir a buscar al niño. Entonces la enfermera va a exigir o le va a pedir que lleve el niño al médico para verificar si o no el niño tiene el virus. Entonces reportar a la escuela los resultados del examen. Pero bajo ninguna circunstancia nadie puede venir a buscar a su niño si no es alguien que usted no ha autorizado para hacerlo. Ms. Evans?
I also saw another question, Dr. Tabaya, that is it true that the school will require a waiver to be signed by parents in case children get exposed from being in the school? That is absolutely not true. We have heard nothing that remotely sounds like that. There has been no guidance issued to anyone about signing a waiver for your child to be in school. So that is absolutely false based on the information that we have at this time. I want to address IEPs because I saw someone ask about a vaccine. We have no idea about a vaccine, just like you. We have no idea about a vaccine at this point. There's been nothing. Ms. Jimenez?
I'm sorry. I got distracted. Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's fine. I'm just saying that, please let the parents know that there has been no directives given by the DOE or the city of New York to have parents sign waivers for their children to come to school in case they on contract for COVID.
Anybody out there who speaks Spanish, how do you say waiver?
Heredia, anyone else? Puritano?
No.
Maybe we can get
Consento, permiso de consento.
Permiso de consento. Un padre he preguntado si es necesario que los padres firmen un documento, un documento de consento, que si el niño recibe, capta el virus, que tienen remedio. Bajo ninguna circunstancia los padres van a tener que firmar cualquier documento diciendo que si mi niño coge COVID, yo le voy a demandar o whatever. Denunciar, exacto, denuncia. Bajo ninguna circunstancia los padres van a tener que firmar un documento así.
I see a few questions on here about IEP, so I want to address that because that's quite important. And I just want to ensure that we are clear about what that is. So whether your child is in remote learning fully or they're in the blended model, or according to their IEPs, whatever services they're entitled to, they will receive. So the children that come into the building, the service providers, whether it's speech, OT, whatever the services that they receive, they will receive those services. Likewise, they throughout the spring we had teletherapy, and those personnel interacted with those children via the Zoom or Teams or Google Classroom. So I know that there was a comment about child not receiving speech. And so we had a speech teacher who went out in the middle of the COVID situation, and we did send out RSA letters to have someone else fill in, and some of our children received that services. If you did not, please let me know that, because that is something that we can help you to rectify. We certainly do not want our children to not have their services. So if that did not happen for you, I apologize for that. Please let me know. But I know that I contacted someone and they did send us someone to supplement in, and that we, some of the children did receive that. If your child did not, then please let me know that so that we can see how we can get some of those services back for your children. But every child with an IEP should receive their services as per their IEP. The teachers will continue to service them in their setting, whether it's in the ICT setting, the self-contained setting. They will continue to receive their set services if they have that, and they will continue to receive their related services, whether that be speech, OT, PT, or whatever that is. And if they're home remote, it will be done I believe through teletherapy, and then if they are in school, then we will work with them on those days that they're in to ensure that they can receive their services there. But again, if you did not receive services at any point this year, please, you have to let us know that so that we can jump on that. And again, my email is always in the chat. If that's an issue, please let me know, Ms. Jimenez know, and then we will be able to reach out to someone to help rectify that situation. But your children's IEPs will be honored in the format in which they are written.
La señora Evans quiere asegurarle que si su niño tiene un plan individual educacional, un IEP, que todos los servicios que el niño está supuesto tomar, ella dice que todos los servicios se le van a dar a los niños. Ningún niño va a ir sin su terapia ocupacional, su terapia del lenguaje, cualquier terapia. Si usted ha tenido la experiencia que sus niños no han recibido sus servicios, por favor de mandarle la información a la señora Evans o uno a mí para yo dárselo a ella. Todos los niños con un IEP, un plan educacional individual, van a recibir sus servicios, aunque si sea en el salón individual con la terapista o en remoto, pero todos los niños se les van a garantizar a ustedes que van a recibir sus servicios. Ms. Evans?
So the school day will be the same for all children, whether they're in remote or in the school. So I just wanted to address that because I noticed that people are asking. Absolutely, the same school day will be in effect for all children, whether they are in the school building or they are remote. Now, please know that when your children are not in the building, they are remote. So they will be getting their remote learning at that time. It's not like they come to school 2 days and then the other 3 days they're sitting at home twiddling their thumbs. On those 3 days that, or depending on the week they're in, they are going to be engaged in remote learning with those teachers who are doing remote learning. So they are having 5 days. It's just only a portion of those days will be in the building. So I just want to clarify that so that you're not thinking that your kids are learning 2 days and then they're doing nothing. They will be engaged in full remote learning. And also, yes, your children will be able to get their materials if they are full remote. And if you've been to any of our pop-up pantries, that is the same format we're expecting to follow. Once this resources they need, for example, their math texts and so forth come in, we will put those together in a pile and give you a time and a date to come in and pick them up from us like we do when we do the pop-up pantry, so that you'll be able to get all of the resources, including manipulatives and whatever your children need for learning, from the building.
La señora Evans quiere que sepa que todos los niños van a participar en su educación 5 días a la semana. Aunque su niño esté en grupo A y ese grupo solamente viene 2 veces en esa semana, no quiere decir que el niño solamente va a clase 2 días a la semana. Si son 2 días en el salón, los otros 3 son remotos. Todos los niños van a recibir su educación 5 días de la semana. También si las maestras van a tener listos todos los materiales educacional y manipulativos que los niños necesiten para trabajar en su hogar. Igual que nosotros los llamamos cuando hay comida en la escuela, los vamos a llamar a decirles, por favor, vengan a la escuela a buscar estos materiales que sus niños van a necesitar para participar en educación remoto. Los niños van a participar 5 días, no 2 o 3. 5 días. Miss Evans?
Okay. So I'm looking at
Temperature check.
I'm looking at some other questions, and so yes. So the DOE is asking that parents check their children's temperature in the mornings, the ones that are coming in, but we will also be doing random temperature checks at school, which is the non-contact one where you've seen them, you put them up to the forehead, you click, and it tells us whether or not the children have a temperature or not. So yes, we will be doing temperature checks in the mornings when your children come into school.
So also we asked if children have over 100, then they shouldn't come to school. That's the temperature. If they have 100, then they'll be identified at school. But this is again another place where we'll need the community support. We ask that all parents take their children's temperature before they send them. And really, if your child's not feeling well, we really ask you to keep them home, because that's gonna, impact everything. So it's a community effort. We need you to take their temperature every day. And if they're not feeling well, then they can stay home. And remember, they'll do remote learning that day, so they can still learn. They just do it at home.
De gran importancia es temperaturas. Los niños se le van a chequear la temperatura al entrar al edificio y durante el día se le van a chequear a todos, a los niños. De gran importancia, cuando los niños se levanten por la mañana, por favor, cojan su temperatura. Si exige 100, una temperatura de 100, por favor consideren mantener sus niños en sus hogares y utilizar educación remoto para ese día. Nosotros necesitamos que ustedes nos ayuden a nosotros mantener la comunidad escolar saludable. Por favor, chequen la temperatura de sus niños antes de traerlo a la escuela. Quédense con ellos si tienen temperatura, y si se llama a decirle que el niño tiene temperatura para que lo vengan a buscar, por favor de hacerlo lo más pronto posible al recibir la llamada.
So I'm going
I wanted to add something too. So if somebody could put in the chat the link to school reopening, that's because on the school website, and it's in multiple languages, parents can read the exact information about the COVID-19 protocols and the temperature checks, all this information, which there is a tremendous amount of information. It's all on the DOE website. So I think that's a good resource, and there's so much changing information. I think that's a really good resource for parents to have. So if you're feeling nervous or you want a little bit more detail, you can go to that website and you could read it, and it is in multiple languages.
La señora Tobaya quiere que sepan que por favor utilicen la página del internet de la escuela, del Departamento de Educación. La información es disponible en todos idiomas y está rica de información que ustedes necesitan saber diariamente a cómo los cambios están pasando y qué pólizas están implementando. So, por favor, alguien lo va a poner aquí en la hoja a su derecha, la hoja electrónica del Departamento de Educación. Muchos idiomas, mucha información, por favor, de utilizarla.
So I'm hearing some questions about dismissal and entrance. So just in our planning and thinking about that, around our school, and we'll be using multiple entrances for different grades to come in, because clearly we're trying to prevent students congregating in any form. With 6-foot markers with 6-foot markers between children, so that they are not bunched together and that they're appropriately socially distanced as they come in. There will be people on the sidewalks with hand sanitizer, so that they can have their hands sanitized before they come into the building. Temperatures will be checked, and then once they are cleared with that, again, Dr. Tabaya gave you the number, 100. If it's less than that, then they should be fine to go. They'll get a grab and go lunch. Along the pathway to their classroom will be different school personnel that will be there to help them to move along the arrows that are pointing them in the direction that they should be walking at that time, and to their classrooms, where teachers will be asked to stand by the doors to just welcome them in, so that they're not coming in and congregating in any fashion. And then they will go in and they will sit down and they will have their breakfast. And just at dismissal time, we are using separate egresses, so they'll be going out in different places. We're thinking about staggering that dismissal, but it depends on a few things. So for now, the thought is just that we will have them go through different exits, the ones that they come in, and that they will be socially distanced that way. And I think it's so important what Dr. Tobias said. So at dismissal time, parents have to be there to pick kids up, because we can't allow the congregation of children during that time. And so it has to be that at 2:15, parents are there to pick up children, or whomever you need, the guardian of the child, so that they are picked up and moving along at that time. And so that's the expectation, is that we're going to have multiple entrances and exits. We're going to have the appropriate social distance markers that are on the floors. We're going to have the hand sanitizers. We're going to take temperatures. We're going to ensure that school personnel is all along the route at entrance and dismissal, to ensure that they are moving along, and that teachers are at their doors awaiting them, so that they can go in and sit properly in their seats and not congregating and consorting with their peers, and that they're ready for learning. They'll eat their breakfast at that time, and after eating breakfast, then their instruction will begin for the day. So that is the plan, and same for dismissal. They'll be dismissed out those doors, social distance, people along the path, to ensure that they're moving out, and that we are able to get them out with your help very quickly, so that there are no children lingering or waiting around in any kind of fashion. So that's the plan for that.
I have a question.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Dash.
Hi, I have a pre-K child going in, but there's no option for me to opt in for 100% remote learning. How do I go about that?
Has he been registered and accepted into the
Yes.
program? So that Miss Heredia, can you put that into the, did you go on the site?
Yes, but there's no I can't add him, only my older children. He has no they asked for like ID and information. I don't have any of that for him yet.
Okay, so that's that. Okay, so can you email me? I'll send you my email information, and can you email me, Miss Heredia? Can you put my email in the chat? Just email me with the information for the child, and I will pass it along.
Awesome, thank you.
You're very welcome. I think we just need to get the ID number for you. So that should be the issue there. Once we get that, then you should be fine. So if you send that to me, I can get that for you.
Okay.
I know we're asking about rec centers, but if you remember, rec centers were in the schools. And so because the schools are reopening, those spaces are going to be utilized. So I do definitely understand. Again, we're still awaiting the further guidance from the mayor concerning the aftercare that they said should be coming. And when we hear about that, we will certainly let you know. Let's see. Is there anything else that we...
La señora Evans quiere que sepan que la entrada y la salida cada día va a ser diferente que años anteriores. Ustedes le van a dejar saber cuál el número de la salida o éxito, entrada, sus niños van a utilizar para venir al edificio. Es de gran importancia de mantener los niños en distancia cuando están entrando y saliendo de la escuela. Eso es de gran importancia que los padres vengan a tiempo a la salida para que los niños no estén en grupos esperando sus padres. Es de gran importancia de mantener la distancia para que los niños mantengan saludables. A la entrada los niños se les van a chequear su temperatura, van a asegurar que tengan su máscara y van a asegurar que sus niños, que las manos estén limpiadas con los líquidos que tenemos para ellos limpiarse las manos. Recoger su desayuno en funda y subir a sus salones. Por favor, pedimos su paciencia, que esto va a ser un poquito difícil, va a tener un poquito de trauma para todos nosotros, pero por favor, necesitamos su ayuda para asegurar que todos se mantengan saludables.
And I see that there is some concern about the lunch. And again, I plan for the things that I truly can control. We are told that the lunches that are going to be there at this point is grab and go. And so that is what it is at this point. I do understand the concerns around that. However, that is what the DOE has. Those are the guidelines that have been provided. So I do understand what you're saying, though, because, you know, I myself personally, that's something that I know that is valuable, and that, you know, parents, if their kids who are okay with a grab and go meal and their kids who need something different. And so I know that one of the options is that there are no good options right now, and that's basically what I want to say about that. I think that, you know, we've never done anything like this before, and people are really thinking through, trying to make the best decisions that they can. And is that going to be 100% right? No, because everything is not going to work for everyone. And I know that there are a lot of concerns, and even with this, there aren't a lot of answers. But what we can do is again, and I'm going to just reiterate some of the points that I really want to drive home before we we will meet again, because if I get new information, and as we get information, believe me when I tell you, we're getting it every day, sometimes every minute of the day. And so as soon as I know it, I will schedule something else. If you saw our calendar for August, it has another tentative town hall, because I recognize that there has to be more that, there will be more that needs to come. But what I can tell you is that we are working hard as a staff on the things that we can control. And the things we can control is the academic portion and what we're planning to teach your children. Recognizing that while everything else feels so unsure, the one thing we can do to work on and to strengthen and to make sure it's strong is to make sure the academics are in place to the best of our ability, and that we're implementing the things that we know are going to be good for children. And so I recognize all of your concerns, and I do understand that as parents, I'm a parent as well, that these are hard times. But I do also believe that, everybody is really trying, and nobody has answers, and we all want it to be the way it was, and it just isn't. And so for us as a school community, what we can offer is just, when your children come in every day, we're going to do our very best to keep them safe, to keep them healthy, to maintain to the best of our ability their social emotional well-being, to make sure that we're getting to know them better and building better relationships. And that's going to be the same for our students online. And though that's a little different, I know that our teachers are committed to making sure that we're building those relationships, and that they understand how important that is at this time, and that we're going to give them the best instruction that we can under the circumstances, and that we're going to be here to communicate with you. If you are not following us on Instagram or Twitter or any of our social media, please do. A lot of times we post information there. People tell me they don't get it, and then I say, are you following us? And they say no. And I'm like, please follow us, because that's where we can get the information out instantaneously. Like if I got off today and something came up, that's where I would be posting it first thing, because that's just the quickest way to get it out to everyone. If you have a number that has changed, please inform us so that we have a number. We send robocalls out, and sometimes people are telling me that they don't get them, and sometimes it's because numbers have changed and we haven't received an updated number. Sometimes we're noticing that some families have blocked us on our numbers. If you block the school's number, you're not going to get information, and it is more vital than ever that we have a way to contact you right now, because we're going to have new information all the time. Things are changing, and we have to be able to get in touch with you to let you know what's going on. And as for myself, what I can pledge to you is that I'm going to work very hard with the things I can control with this, which is going to be the academic, social, emotional supports, and keeping in touch with you to make sure that you understand what's going on. I will not compromise on your children's education, because I would not want anyone to compromise on mine. I will work tirelessly every day to make sure that your children are learning and that our teachers are prepared to teach our children together. But what I will need from you is just to work with us in this time. I know there's not any good answers right now, but what we do have is what we can strengthen and build up in this time. So I just, that's what I have to offer at this time. And I hope that we can continue to keep the lines of communication open so that we can continue to build a strong community for our children. And as soon as I know answers to those questions, please feel free to email me if you need to. And as soon as I have answers, I will certainly send them along. And it was good that we got to debunk a few of those things that are so outrageous that people are hearing that are not true. And we want to make sure that we're giving you the information that we know is true. So again, no waivers, no sending your children somewhere to be quarantined for 14 days. That is not at all what is going to happen. We can't release your children to anyone but you and the people that you have designated. So I just want to reiterate that and to let you know that we're working hard. You will get those schedules by the 26th. We're working hard on that. We're working hard to strengthen our academic programs to ensure that our children are getting what they need. We're working really hard to ensure that all of our service providers are here for our students with special needs, and so that they're able to get the additional supports that they need in order to be successful this year. And that's what we can guarantee. The rest of it is unfortunately not in our hands, and we will have to do the best with what we have. We're making lemonade with lemons at this point, but we are working hard and doing the best with the guidance that we are being given, and we are going to work hard this year and every year to ensure that your children have the best of what we can offer in this very, very, very unprecedented time, recognizing that you also have been through a lot, have gone through a lot, but we are here for you, and we want to continue to build and strengthen our community for our children. So that is what I have to offer, and I will do my very best every day to ensure that that happens.
La señora Evans quiere asegurarle que la escuela, ella en particular y las maestras van a hacer todo posible para asegurar que sus niños reciban la mejor educación posible, para que todos sus niños tengan éxito. Una gran comportamiento de estos tiempos tan difíciles es comunicación. Si usted no participa en Twitter Twitter and Instagram, por favor, hazlo. Es de gran importancia porque las cosas cambian diariamente. Y con Twitter y Instagram es la manera más fácil y más rápida para nosotros informarle a ustedes qué ha cambiado y qué tenemos que hacer juntos como una comunidad escolar. Hay muchas cosas que nosotros no podemos controlar. Lo único que la señora Evans le puede controlar y garantizar es que sus niños van a recibir una buena educación. Pero comunicación es de gran importancia. Por favor, marquen la dirección electrónica de ella, la mía. No, por favor, de abrir una cuenta con Instagram y Twitter para que ustedes siempre sepan la verdad de lo que está pasando. No el bochinche que está pasando en la calle, que la gente está hablando, oh, van a hacer esto y van a hacer aquello. No. Si quieren saber por seguro qué está pasando, le pueden mandar, pueden comunicarse con sus maestras, ya que sepan quiénes sus maestras son, con Dojo o cualquier otro modo, la señora Evans en su dirección o mí. Por favor, comunicación es de gran importancia. Quédense conectados para que siempre sepan lo que está pasando. Ms. Evans?
Dr. Tabaya, do you have anything to close?
I think we got all the answers. Someone's a little frustrated about their report card, I say, so we need to get that.
And we're going to get that for you right now. Someone answered for you and they're sending it, so thank you. And so thank you, everybody. I will certainly be in touch. I'm sure I'll see you at a pop-up pantry soon, because Dr. Tabaya likes to call me the day before and say, hey, 1:38 pantry time. So we will be there. Again, if you need to see me in person, I am always there on a Thursday. Whenever I'm called for the pantry, we always show up. So if you need to speak to me, that's a great place too, that if you have the time, you can pass by and just shoot, let me know what's on your mind and what's happening. Thank you all so very much for your time. And also, please remember, you can always if you are uncomfortable with the grab and go, you can always pack something for your child if you think that would be better for them. I would, if I were doing this, and that might be something I would do, but again, it's not mandatory for you to do. I'm just throwing that out as an option if you feel like your children, maybe some days they come in, they may want the grab and go, but maybe on the second day they may want something else. Please feel free to send that in with them as well. I'm happy to have them do that.
Well, and there is going to be the DOE is going to post what is in the grab and goes, because I guess there is going to be a bit of a variety, so you can check the menu online as well.
Yes, and also for children who are in a remote, just FYI, they can also come by and get breakfast and lunch if they need to get it. So please do not hesitate to do that. They will be able to come in and get breakfast and lunch as if they were in school. So please know that that's an option for them as well if you're home with your children in full remote.
Oh, de gran importancia queremos que sepan que aunque el niño esté en instrucción remoto, todavía pueden venir a la escuela a recoger su desayuno y almuerzo. No pueden entrar al edificio, pero los niños en remoto pueden recibir comida de la escuela. Si ustedes quieren mandar a su niño con su comida en vez de comer la comida de la escuela, por favor, háganlo.
So thank you all very much.
Tentativamente tenemos otra reunión de padres al fin de este mes. Si reciben la notificación, por favor planifiquen asistir, porque es capaz que hay nueva información para compartir con todos ustedes.
So thank you all very much. I will be in touch. Give our love to all of the children. Let them know that we miss them, and be safe. Take care of yourselves, and we'll talk with you very soon. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you, Dr. Tabaya, for being here. We appreciate you.
All right, take care, everyone. Thank you.
Have a great
Gracias y buenas tardes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.